Hello, hello.
Oh,
All of the
Hello.
all of the
Technical
fun of a LinkedIn
glitches.
Live. Always. Thanks.
that is the beauty of it.
It is, it is. All right. So,
We have convenience for some things, but like if it works well entirely, what's the point?
right.
Bless
Fair.
you. Bless
You
you,
know,
Priscilla.
as a matter of fact, I heard someone no, you said it at the event where you so I met Priscilla at an event where she was presenting, and you said, you always ask people like who's their favorite team, and you don't ask them because together you're going to root for the same team. You're asking them because you want to understand, like, oh, I know how to feel about like a team feel as well. So
Yes.
if we can all fuss about technology together, then we're all in it together. So I
Exactly.
think you're
Common
right.
feeling for common topic. Yes.
Yeah, no, okay, that's the point I was trying to make. So let me chat about why we're here. So parents joining us, thank you. Let's be honest, right? You're worried because you look at your teenager and think, are they going to be all right out there? Will they ever get a real job when everything's feeling like chaos? So we get it. The world's definitely changed. Resumes are written by AI. Interviews are on Zoom. Oh, wait, now they're going back live because of AI. And
Mhm.
confidence really can look like a perfectly filtered post instead of an actual conversation. So that is why we wanted to have today's conversation. We're talking about helping teens move from hashtags to handshakes, from scrolling to showing up, and so they can build confidence, really communication, and build a presence that actually opens doors. So I am Marnie Stockman.
And I am Nick Coniglio. And if you know us through our books and our podcasts, we believe that every kid really should learn to run the most important business that they'll ever manage. And we call that the business of themselves. So that's why we wrote that book, The Business of You. We believe that every student should be the CEO of You Incorporated. And that also means that they need to run every department of that company.
So, to unpack that idea, we've got the amazing Presilah Nunez Davis, actor, confidence coach, and founder of The Finer Points. So, she's known for helping teens and young adults build presence that feels authentic, not performative. Works with students, professionals, and even Broadway hopefuls. And she's here to bring that same spark to every conversation. So, Priscilla, we're super glad to have you. Did we get all that right?
You did. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And I just got to say, you guys are talking about the different departments and just, giving a little bit of a brief summary of the Business of You book. And I have to tell you, I read it this weekend, and I wish I had it with me. I didn't bring it with me, but it is all marked up. I mean, I had like there were so many. I'm sitting there and I was like, "Yep, I believe this. Yep, absolutely." Like just notes to myself affirming. It's funny because you say, Marnie, when we met, and we previously met. The first time
On
was
Zoom. Yeah. Yeah.
Zoom, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
but when you meet your people, right? It's like I like to
Yes.
liken it to Finding Nemo. The sea turtles are all on that same thing, and it's like when you find the people who are riding that same wave, and they bring you in, which you very much are, that connector that you talk about in the book, and you bring people into that wave, and you're like, come on, but come on, dude, it's not, and it's great. You catch that energy, that vibe, and you're like, yes, you are my people. You are speaking my language, and that was me as I was reading your book.
Well, that's awesome
Well,
because that was definitely me when Paula introduced us. Like the first call, she said, and I texted her afterwards. She's like, "Oh, I totally knew that was your people."
Yeah.
and my goodness, we appreciate the plug on the book. And truth be told, part of the motivation behind writing that book, I think, was a shared fear of our own children, and were they ready to, I've heard the terms ready to launch, ready to be ready, ready for the real world, whether it was after high school or college. And we know that we've spoken to so many parents out there who are kind of feeling that same exact way. And when Marnie first met you, she's like, "Oh my gosh," said the same thing, Priscilla, that you just said. She is our type of people. And then I've gotten a chance to speak with you, Marnie and I have chatted about it. We know that you work with young people all the time,
Mhm.
um, and we just wanted to ask you, what are you hearing? What are parents most worried about? What's actually driving those fears? I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
That's a great question. And I feel like it's evolving even in real time because, like Marnie said in the introduction, we are not doing the online Zoom interview thing anymore. You know, institutions, colleges, workplaces, they want in-person touch. They want that human connection. And we've spoken so many times in the past about how that's the differentiator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think parents, they're nervous in the sense that their understanding of, I hate to say it this way, but it's almost like a lot of parents feel like they missed the mark. And they're thinking, you know, I thought I did everything right. I put them in the right clubs. I accessed, you know, the right tutors for them. I put them in the great school. We moved homes to be in a better school system. And yet, you know, you've got kids who, similar to the main character in your book, does all the right things and still feels like they fall short. Where did I miss the mark? And parents who are, you know, you're watching your kid through this, and I have a 3-year-old now, and I see how it's so much more painful to watch your kid do it. It's almost like you'd rather take it on yourself, right?
100%.
Yeah, you're like, let me do it. Let me go through that interview for you. And you have parents doing that, right?
Oh, yes.
Going to interviews with their kids and emailing the professor for their kids. And I think that's where the nervousness, to circle back to your question, comes into. It's where and how do I make my kid more independent in a world that is now becoming global in terms of competition, right? And increasingly more, I think those soft skills, we're seeing that tide turn and they're becoming more and more valuable because we've let them go by the wayside a bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, well, a combo platter, we've let those soft skills go by the wayside, and the technical skills are advancing so quickly that if parents felt super confident that they could help kids in that regard, that maybe they would feel better. But they have no idea, like, what is all this AI stuff? You know, we hear about other people doing, you know, AI interview, like all of these types of things. They don't know how to help there. So a piece of them just wants to say, like, "Oh, come do the interview with you." Like, ooh, not the right answer. We know it comes from a place of love, but that is not what we're looking for.
You're 100% correct. And I think that's so true. It's that combination of AI and technology moving at lightning speed. And then, you know, it's funny, I'm interviewing or touring preschools for my son. And right now he's 3, but he'll be 4 next year. And so I kind of threw in like a trick question. I've been throwing in a trick question, and I'll ask them, so how much technology is involved in their day-to-day? And you'll kind of, it's funny because now, you know, I feel like maybe 5-10 years ago, there would have been such a, well, we have, you know, iPads for them and it has a Chromebook and they know how to access this and that and the other. Whatever.
Yeah.
And now there's that hesitation. And it's funny. I kind of let them suffer a little bit. And then I'll say, that was a trick question. I was like, I actually no technology.
0. Yes. Yeah.
So don't worry if you don't have a Chromebook in his name, you know, and he you know, accept it. I was like, I want none of it. And then there's a sense of relief. I'm like, okay, well, we are play-based. And I'm like, lovely, great.
Please, more of that.
Please. And so, so to circle back, we were saying it's this thing where now we're recognizing, oh, we should have taught you that in conjunction with the technology. Because now the technology is so, you know, it's at lightning speed. And yet, at the same time, we are all made to connect with one another. And that's the one thing that AI cannot do, is have that human connection.
Human connection.
Zero human connection. And we relied on it. You know, if I think back on, you know, my son's 21 years old now, so his age 10 through 20, we relied on the technology so heavily, and we stripped them of those human interaction skills because it was so easy for us. And this may speak to my parenting skills right now, but it was easy, right? To think, okay, you need to understand, you need to learn this technology because this is the way of the future. And in hindsight, what was missed was, oh my goodness, we're stripping away, you know, so many of the skills that we all had growing up, the human interaction skills. And like Marnie said before, you know, just a couple of years ago, my son asked, you know, we're having a conversation about what major should he pursue and go after. And when I think about it today, if we have no idea, because the job market is going to look completely different 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Mhm.
So really the tried and true skill that I think everybody needs to pick up and really excel at are the human skills, because that will be the only consistent baseline, with how quickly everything is changing for us and for our children moving forward, for sure.
And you mentioned, your son being 10 when phones became super popular. So the kids that are now going into college were even younger when that happened. And I'm thinking about, so my kids are older, so I didn't have this. And as a child, I can remember, and you see why it happens. You're at the grocery store. It is so much easier to hand a child a phone, right? Rather than, so they're not interrupting you. But how many times can I remember my mom saying, when you meet someone at a grocery store, Marnie, you shake their hand. And when they say, how are you? You can say fine, but you must add on to the conversation. You have to give an answer about yourself, and you must make one more statement that extends the conversation to get them to answer. And I mean, she said it so many times that like I can hear the over and over again, like, I get it, Mom. But
Yes.
I think that's what's missing when the kids are just so so engaged with their phone. So tell us, because I'm sure you see that all of the time. That's exactly what you're helping with.
Yes. And I'm glad that your mom said that. It's funny. I teach that very thing. I call it the OCQ method, where there's an observation, right? So that's what the O is, where you're either observing your environment or observing the person in front of you, and you make a comment, wow, it's really chilly in here, or, hey, I really like your sweater. And that's the C. It's a comment or a compliment, right? And it brings us together. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier, that common feeling versus common topic. Because sometimes when you're younger, and when I teach younger kids how to build conversation out, just like your mom taught you, and just to add in, because it's a skill, right? Your mom
yes. And you can learn it. Yes.
you can learn it, right? And when I teach the younger kids, I'll make it very simple, because, it usually is a compliment. They just live in a smaller world. They have a smaller bubble, which understandable. Or something in common, another C word that I tell them, something they have in common. Oh, you like, Blue's Clues? So do I, whatever it is. My son was watching Blu's Clues this morning, if you can tell.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. And then question, and then extend the conversation. Like,
yes.
Where'd you get that sweater? Or, how long have you worked here? Haven't seen, whatever it is. So that way we have that back and forth. And to jump back what I was saying, it is a skill. And so a lot of parents that I speak with will be nervous, or they come to me with, my kid's really shy. And so they don't have that in them. They don't have a bubbly personality. They're just not one to go up to someone. And I like to tell them, I am a recovering shy kid. That is why I got into theater. That is why my mom got me involved in the summer of 1997 at a summer camp.
In the 1900s, as they say.
Gen Z says, yeah, I know, the 1900s. But anyway, that's why I got involved, was because my mom, she was like, she's so shy. And how do I get her out of her shell? And I know she really likes to play pretend. And that's what acting became for me, was putting on a different role and behaving as that person and escaping in that way. But a lot of parents will kind of, I don't want to say shortchange their kid, but really they don't expect that an introverted, shyer kid or just more reserved kid can also have those skills, but they absolutely can. And I think it's important to impress upon them that it can be learned, and it's a tool that you can bring out, when you're comfortable, but at least you have to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you look at a more, my husband, super gregarious, just life of the party. And I would sit and watch him and go, how does he do that? Right? Like, just how does he? And I started observing it, and I thought, oh, there's a pattern here.
A pattern.
And it's his mother, like your mother did to you, who would say to him exactly what your mom said: extend the conversation. And so when you're taught that, and that parenting happens, and again, well, actually, I just led I shouldn't say again, because it's a different audience. I just led a session on bridging the generational gap in the workplace. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how there used to be a village that parented your child. And so if your parent didn't instill a skill in you, maybe an aunt did,
someone else,
a neighbor, a coach, a mentor, somebody picked up. we somehow, in some way, and whether it's right or wrong or indifferent, we stopped parenting other people's children, right?
Oh,
And
that's
so,
interesting. That's something else about being in your own house in COVID is you didn't have the whole neighborhood where these 7 parents were allowed to yell at your child because they weren't over at their house.
no. And even culturally, I mean, we really, even in terms of, I'm sure, you, Marnie, as an experience as an educator, in just speaking with friends of mine who have been educators for just even 10, 15 years, they say that dynamic has changed so much in terms
Yeah,
of what
yeah,
parents expect for you to relate to their child, the authority figure as an educator,
yeah,
there. So in that sense too, as a teacher, it's like, where is that line where
yeah,
I'm able to say, hey, Joey, you really got to take your baseball cap off, and not have that pushback of, well, my mom said that I could.
yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of push pull there. But we're getting there. Time to
It's
stay.
in my daughter's a 4th grade teacher, and they're allowed to wear hats in school, but she doesn't let them wear them in her class.
Mhm.
And there was some initial pushback on it. And she said, she talked about respect and how do you show respect for people. And one of the ways that I would like you to show respect for me, and I will show respect for you, right, is that you're not going to wear a hat in my room, because then we know it's you're showing the sign of respect and that you're ready to show up and learn. Other people might have other rules, but this is my rule in it. So it's interesting that you brought up the hat one, because that is exactly one that, and the parents have all, like, because she explained the why, which is, Nick and I talk about this all the time. So many people today want to know the why, that when she took the time to explain the why, which in a very busy world where everything's go, 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 you don't always take the time to get to the why. By
Mhm.
taking the time to get the why, she has 0.0 pushback on the hat situation.
So kind of building on this, I have a question, Priscilla, because well, we're a family of introverts. My entire family, as a matter of fact, and I've worked with a lot of people who kind of felt that way. It always felt awkward to engage in conversations, and they really didn't build or practice or learn that skill, and then they really struggled during the interview process for an internship or a job. But a lot of times I get the feedback, I feel like I'm just faking it. Is that something that you hear a lot, or do you have any advice on how to counter that when that's kind of the feeling that's rooted in the individual that you're working with?
Yes, I get that a lot. And especially from, this current generation who values authenticity
Yep.
over everything. And I tell them, I hate to tell you this, but a lot of us are. And for a certain extent of time, you may feel that way. And eventually, like with building confidence, it it starts to chip away. It starts to fall away, and you find your authentic self within that context. Because the truth of it is, generally speaking, the way you speak with your best friend is not the way you're going to speak with your teacher. It's not the way you're going to speak with your grandmother. It's not the way, ideally, right? And that's another thing I actually really like to teach that generation, is that you need to be able to find your authentic self. And this is why I love your values part of the book and the mission
Yep.
statement, because there is an authenticity to you that holds true and holds dear, but your communication of it and the way you tell
Yeah.
that story will differ depending upon who your audience is. You've got to know your audience. And that changes your communication style.
Yeah.
Sometimes in certain situations, like an interview setting, it is going to feel really weird.
Yeah.
Guess what? It's not a comfortable environment, right? Because we all
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
we're there for. And
Yeah.
so there's like this awkward tension. That's how I feel about I did not online date or app date. I met my husband prior to the rise of it, thankfully, because I always think, wow, how awkward must that be? Where it's like, I swipe, you swipe. Okay, but we both know what we're both getting
Yeah.
at. We're not going to really talk about what we're both getting at, but we're both like, that is so much weirder to me in my generation
Mhm.
than just, having up, driving up a conversation at the grocery store. Because
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
knows, this could just be a whatever, or this could go to somewhere else. But if we're both swiping right on our phone, it's like we both have expectation. And I think
Yes.
that's where it can get a little bit, for those who are more introverted, that expectation. Am I meeting the expectation of the other
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
That's where it starts to really heighten or just draw out that anxiety. Is, am I doing it right? Am I, making sense? Am I, and and I'll tell you, so I auditioned for many, many years. That was my job. I like to tell people, as an actor, your job is to audition. If you get the job, it's the cherry on top, right? But the job, the day to day is
It's auditioning.
yes. And so prior to COVID, it was in person. And what's funny about it is that people don't realize a lot of times you're going into audition for this big TV show or, a big movie, and you're walking into a conference room. You're not walking onto a set. You're not walking. There's no makeup, costumes for the first few auditions. It's just you and like one or two other people who are staring at you with this expectation, right? And you couldn't be in a more unnatural environment, right? Like you're in a conference, similar time, and I'm supposed to act like I'm an FBI detective trying to take down this, drug pin from Colombia, and I'm in a conference room. You're sitting in like a lazy boy chair. What is happening right now? The walls are gray. I've got, it is the most, and it feels unnatural. And you, as the actor, you start to realize you have to influence the energy in the room. You have to paint the picture and create the environment for them to believe you. It's almost like you're taking their hand and going, here, come with me.
Yeah.
It's like, let me show you the world I'm painting for you. And it reminds me of your whole thing of the interview, right?
Yes.
You lead the interview, right? Because then that whole power dynamic evens out.
For sure.
It allows you to not be as nervous because you need me. I'm solving your problem.
Right, I got you. It's some of the students that we work with when we talk a lot about having a story bank of questions. They're so nervous. I have literally seen TikTok channels where they'll say, okay, here are the 400 questions to prepare for on an interview. And I said, what? Not a chance. I'm a great memorizer, and there's not a chance I am doing that. I said, how about this? We're going to come up with 3 to 5 stories, and you are going to tell these regardless of the questions that they ask. And first, that takes a little of the panic off. And then we start with the core values, right? Let's find out who you are. Let's find out what stories align to that. Now, we know that the people asking are going to want your strengths, your weaknesses, if you're a problem solver, if you're a collaborator. So let's figure out how those stories all tie together. And then you go in and you, again, like you said, you paint the picture for them while you're answering their questions, but start with your own story. My goodness, it feels so much more authentic and a lot less anxiety producing than memorizing 400 answers and hoping you answered with 379, even though they asked, question 378.
Well, I think we could even steal some of Presila's language there, right? Observe what they're asking, potentially question. I know it's a little out of order of what you said, but then comment based on what your understanding is, using your story, within the parameters of exactly who your audience is. And I think that helps young people quite a bit, for sure.
So I wanted to ask a question because I love your Instagram stories. If you're not following Presilah on Instagram, you should. It's Presilah. So we'll make sure you get that we'll put that in links and comments everywhere. So you talked about what is the price of confidence? And you said it's embarrassment because you have to build through failure. So with the teenagers today, how are you getting that message? Because Nick and I always talk about you've got to do the awkward.
Yes.
How are they feeling walking in, and how you get them over the fact that we are going to do the awkward. We are going to work on some failure.
You've got to do the awkward. Well, it's funny. You should have asked that, Marnie, because I think the session that we actually met face to face, I did that with that group. I came in, and Nick, I think we spoke about this too, but one of my go-tos, and if you happen to have a session with me and you're listening, now you know
go with the flow.
Pretend you never didn't hear me say this. But I love to start off by embodying awkward, shy, just that tension and that that energy and allowing for them, people in my session, or even like if I do a one-on-one confidence coaching, that first time I meet them, I come in and my posture's a little off and my eye contact, and I'll even go on my phone and say something like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second." I won't even introduce myself. I'll just be on my phone, or let them come in and be on my phone, and then just give them "Oh, give me 1 second," whatever, to let them sit in that awkwardness, because so much of that anxiety and that feeling that the young generation has that they think is wrong. And they think I need to get rid of this. I need to get rid of this. No, you don't have to get rid of it. You focus it in another way, right? So we all have that feeling. It's just doing that mindset shift of figuring out how to channel that energy differently. But I make them sit in it with me, because again, I'm driving the whole story. They don't know.
Yeah.
And then after just 7 seconds, sometimes 12, if I like to push it, but 7 seconds, I will look for the person who is feeling my embarrassment for me. You know what I mean?
It would have been me for sure.
They are just looking. And usually it's the person who brings me in. So it's like the HR director, or I did a session for a corporate etiquette session, and it was the partner for this big accounting firm in Chattanooga. And he was smack dab in the middle. Yeah. And Marnie, Nick, he was just staring at me like, I cannot believe this.
I'm going to be fired for this woman.
Yes. And so I broke the ice, and I always break the ice by finding that person and saying, "What are you thinking right now?" And they'll kind of have a moment of,
you're not going to make me answer this. Yeah.
And I go, "This is weird, right?" And they say, "Yeah, this is really awkward." And I said, "What's awkward about it?" And they go, "Well," and now all of a sudden their brain is doing this thing, and I can see it happen where they're going, "Is this awkward? This isn't awkward. Why are we talking about what just," and I do it on purpose, where I'm like, describe to me what you're feeling right now. And they'll say, "You look like you're unprepared. You look unconfident." And then as they start chirping in, another person will say, "I was thinking, man, I feel bad for her. I was thinking," and it will kind of lighten the mood. And it's great because it works dual purpose. Number one, it shows them that transfer of energy, that communication happens so quickly.
Yeah.
Really
like fast. You said, 7 seconds feels like forever if you're watching it.
Forever. Yes, absolutely. And it also allows them to realize, I like to say this on my website. I say this everywhere. I'm not your grandma's etiquette coach. We're going to have fun. Let's break down that wall of awkwardness. I am willing to be awkward in front of you, so that way you can see that not only is this how it feels and this is what it looks like to observe it, but also it's okay, because that's how you show authenticity. When I do that especially I love doing it to middle schoolers. It's funny because then all of a sudden they start laughing. They walk in thinking, they're some nun is going to walk in and be whipping rulers and getting them, all spiffy up. And then within those first few seconds after that happens, it's like you can feel the tension in the room, and it's just like, hey, we're just going to talk about having the awareness of others and having that keenness. Because if you have that awareness of others, you have good manners. So way. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, so that's a long way to answer your question, but it's just getting them. Yeah. Awkward. It's embarrassment. That's what costs you success. That is the cost to success, or I should say that's how you pay it. And that's how you get it. I feel like, unfortunately, it's been taught, or people have been led to believe that awkwardness, it needs to be subdued, or needs to be shoved down, needs to be medicated even sometimes. And you just have to walk through it. The only way out is through.
Yeah. That is, I love that story. We talk about storytelling as such a powerful tool to help people learn, but actually living it, putting them through it, feeling the awkwardness, that's even more powerful. I just love actually how you do that. I can imagine the impact that it makes, because they're not listening to a story. They're not listening to somebody tell them how they feel. They are actually feeling that sense of awkwardness. And I, for one, hope awkwardness comes back, because God knows I'm awkward in almost everything in my life. So, but let me switch gears.
Make
with
awkward
you,
in.
Yeah. We talk about students being CEO of their own lives. And as part of that, it's helping them, especially teenagers, young adults, realizing that they are the ones that need to be in charge of their destiny and what comes forward. But so many times we see students and young adults who are really just passengers along somebody else's story. How do you get people to take charge of themselves? Is that something that you cover much in the modern etiquette world, or is that not something that you touch on?
It is tough in regards to, generally speaking. And the reason being is because your brain is actually, there was a study, I forget his name, it's not coming to me, it's German. Anyway, but there was a study done where they took MRIs of the participants and they questioned them about their future self. Imagine your future self, right? The part of the brain that lit up is the same part of the brain that lit up when they spoke to them or had them think about celebrities or people. Essentially, your future self is a stranger to you. You cannot imagine it. And even more so as a younger adult, as a teenager. I mean, 30 years old feels ancient. I don't know that person, right? You can't even imagine it. And so it's really tough to, when you're working against that, because that's how the brain is set up. In a way, it's of survival. If you know what's going to come ahead, for many of us, the challenges, the successes, sure, but the failures, would you be willing to take that journey? Probably not. Yeah. Right? So it's almost, it's kind of like this reverse amnesia. You kind of can't correlate yourself to the future self. That said, it is tricky. I'm not going to lie. When you're trying to get a teen to understand why this is valuable, you're going to need this for the future for them, depending upon where they are in life, whether they're a senior, for example, or a freshman, just feels so foreign. And so that's why when I am doing teenagers or I'm having sessions with teenagers, I incorporate a lot of role play from my background. I take a lot of theater games that I played growing up and even as a professional actor and reinvent them and make them etiquette related. And we do that because there's one in particular I'm thinking of with emotional intelligence, because I need you to see how it affects you in the now, in the gymnasium, at your soccer team, whatever it is, those dynamics of having a coach, aka a boss, of having, so that way you can see that dynamic, because we meet the same people, essentially, different stages of our lives, but different faces, different names, these archetypes, right? And if you can familiarize yourself with the respectability and the etiquette that goes into conversing with that archetype, that superior, or even that peer, or somebody below who you're mentoring, having that, at 14, 15 years old, you just get older, right? It's relative to your age. So in that regard, that's one way for me to do that, is just make it their reality now. And I don't talk too much about, in the future, you're going to need this, because it sounds so far,
Yeah. Well, when I get there, I'm sure I'll figure it out. No, this is how it is today.
Right?
Yeah. So tell me what the most successful folks that you work with, what's the biggest transformation you see?
I would say, and this is something that's like the first thing I usually talk about with them, is posture related. And
I know. Okay.
You're good, Nick.
We'll get it together.
and I hesitate in saying that because people do usually go, oh, well, I have to. It's funny.
My mom said shoulders up, back and down all the time.
Yes. And Marnie, my grandmother was a stickler for, she'd walk by me, and I hate to admit this, and she's somewhere, listening to me. I think she passed many years ago, but she would literally give me a little bit of a punch in the stomach. Now, she was an older woman, so it wasn't like
yeah.
A little bit like and it's funny because now I look back on it and I'm like, she's probably cracking up at what I'm doing now. But I like to teach about posture, because it's what I'll notice most, because it is noticeable, it is observable, right? And it's a feedback loop. So it's part of how I teach. And we were talking, you'd mentioned the why. I love to teach the why, especially to kids and teenagers and young adults, because I was that kid. I wanted to know why. And if you didn't tell me why, I wasn't going to do it.
You weren't going to care. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no. So with posture, you know, one form or method of teaching posture as an etiquette coach is just to tell them, hey, sit up straight, you know, shoulders back, whatever. That's fine. That's how you do it. Correct. But why?
Yeah.
Well, why is because, and this goes back to when I come in, posture slumped,
Yeah.
the way you perceive me is very different.
Yeah.
And we like to judge ourselves based off of our intentions, but we judge other people based off of their actions, right?
Yeah.
And so you see someone with poor posture and instantly, and you hate to say that you do it, but you instantly go, you kind of overlook them, right? Now
Absolutely.
that's the observable thing, right? But internally, what I love to teach, more importantly, and that's why it's this feedback loop, it also makes you feel more confident because there literally is a brain body connection. Because when we slump over and we cut off that oxygen and we hide our internal organs, we are telling our body, our nervous system, we're not safe here. I'm not safe. I've got to protect myself. Right. And I'll tell that to kids, like, you know, and we kind of show pictures of animals that do that. You think of your dog cowering in a corner, right? You think of an animal that is confident, aggressive, or even ready to pounce, they get big, right? And there's all of this research behind it about those power poses, right? That take the 2 minutes to just get big and your testosterone rises and your cortisol drops. There's real science behind it. And I had a student, actually, he spoke at the Capitol a couple of weeks ago, and his mom was like, he's back here doing all his power poses and it's hysterical. And I was like, yes, because it works. Get big.
Yeah.
You know, you look at boxers in the ring, in the corner, getting ready, and they're pumping themselves up. It is a real thing. Posture, so much. And then from there, we just, you know, then it's like gravy.
So
That's
how much,
excellent.
I mean, you brought up the word confidence there. How much of the success, you know, when you see a breakthrough, when somebody you're working with really takes that step forward in professional, you know, interaction or etiquette, how much of it is based on confidence? Is that almost entirely the game, from your opinion?
Yes, because that's really what I'm trying to get them to build, because that is transferable regardless of whatever industry you go into.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we live in a world where there's no longer a corporate climb, you know, like a ladder. It's more of a career portfolio than like an actual career trajectory.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that Marnie and you, Nick, I know you guys had those career pivots and you took the skills and all of those, you know, invaluable assets from those jobs and pivoted and brought them elsewhere. And
Yeah.
confidence for me was something that I built as an actor, but the reason being is because I'd go into those scary rooms, like I told you, those, you know, producers and directors staring at you going, literally completely, I mean, sometimes
You're the 57th person showing me a drug deal today, so make it worth it.
absolutely you are. Yep. And I had to figure out a way to kind of hack my brain and think, okay, how do I not make this about me? How do I and build the confidence of going, this is really hard and very awkward. But guess what? You leave that room and you go, oh, all right, I didn't die.
Yep.
Okay. And you do that enough times and you get your brain to that point, and even your physical body. I am a big believer in that too. If you are, you know, an athlete or whatever, a lot of times I can speak to them on that regard. You get your body and your brain to that point of where you think you are going to break and you don't. And then that's how you gain confidence. And the thing is that no one can take from you. No one can take that sense of accomplishment from you. That's how you become confident. You can't be, I like to tell the kids, you can't be complimented into confidence.
Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah.
Yeah, because you get parents who think, you know, my child is so smart and they're so beautiful. There's, you know, they're just so well-rounded and yet, but they're just so unconfident. I don't get it. And I'll oftentimes follow up by saying, what have they struggled with?
Yeah.
What have they like, just, I cannot do this. I can't do that presentation. I can't. that they stuck with and they followed through and then they made it. That's the key.
That's where they'll get their confidence. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I could talk for days, but I think that's a good place to say, okay. So what do you have a couple takeaways that folks should keep in mind, include where they can get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can get a hold of me, like you mentioned, on my Instagram. It's just my first name. My mom got very fancy with spelling my name, Priscilla.
It works in a world
Yes,
of
Yes, it
Google.
does.
it
Thanks,
works.
Mom.
I have thanked her several times. I said, Mom, I can get my own name on Instagram. Thank you very much. So you can find me there. But I would say the biggest takeaway is, in this world of AI, where I think parents, that's the new thing that we're nervous about, myself included. I think there's a little bit of there's some pushback that's already happening, and there's a bit of a pendulum swing where my generation who's parenting right now, the millennials and the young kids, parents, we now know what it's like to raise a generation, Gen Z, alongside these phones and social media. And because social media and technology has evolved so quickly, and now the advertisers have taken hold of it and the corporations and the businesses have taken hold of it, a lot of the younger generation is starting to push back against it. And dumb phones are becoming more popular now. Landlines are becoming more popular now. In-person connection is becoming really popular now. There's all these articles about Gen Alpha really fighting back. They're like the resistance. And partly because I think they're being parented by my generation that, again, not digitally native, but young enough to remember what it was like without it, to remember childhood without it, old enough to understand that, hey, sometimes AI is a great tool, but it's a tool.
It's a tool,
That's
yeah.
what it should be. So
Yeah.
I think that in a positive way, just to wrap it up, I think parents should have a little bit of a sense of relief in knowing that there are so many people like yourselves, like me, that are saying it's not doom and gloom. It's just how you restructure the story and how you teach your kid to take ownership of themselves and of the story that they want to tell and lead with in the world.
Yeah, it's really all about the questions. As a matter of fact, one of the things that Nick's going to put a link up, I think, on the screen if technology's working right, where folks are interested. If you click the link, it'll just ask for your email, and we'll send direct link to this video. We'll send Priscilla's access, etc. But also, we have sort of questions that parents can talk to their students without looking like they're nagging or they're either preachy or pushy. But if you can ask questions instead, that we find kids really do open up, or even if they're not answering your question right then, they're hearing the question and then they're going back and processing it on their own. So we encourage folks we always call them kitchen table conversations because that's where so much of our work happened, also via Zoom from our kitchen tables, but whatever works, that we wanted to share that. So Nick does have the link on the screen. So if folks are interested, grab that link. Go ahead, Nick.
Absolutely. And Priscilla, I mean, literally, we can listen to you all day. This is. I mean, there was so much great information here. Thank you. We will include in the show notes where to find you on Instagram. I know I am. If I'm not already following, I will be following shortly. But this has been awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Likewise, this is great. And like I said, you can feel like you can speak forever when you find your people. And I do think that, sometimes there is that pessimism of, the younger generation, they don't like to work and they just want to play and they get their groceries delivered. Like what, but I do believe in that silver lining and that optimism of, at the same time, they are innovators. They are free thinkers.
Yes, they are.
And we've got to ride with that.
100%. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.